Welcome to Causing the Effect, a podcast focused on the exploration of your mind, body, and spirit.
Yo, what's going on, Causing the Effect community? We're here with Billy Liu. What's up, baby?
I'm good, man. I'm excited. I'm happy to be here today.
We are talking jiu-jitsu today, and Billy was just telling me how much joy he gets from talking to me. So I just want everybody to hear that we're not alone here. But Bill, that's what I was saying is I've figured out like the way you're supposed to figure out like what makes you happy in life is like do whatever gives you the most amount of joy without being like an asshole, without being drinking, boozing. We've all done that shit.
Yes.
And this is what it does for me. And I think that's what I give to you, and that's what you give to me. So that's why we're doing this, bro.
Right. I mean, I'm really happy to be here. I'm excited to, share my experiences on the martial arts and how it kind of changed me, So
Dude,
listen,
okay. So let's get into this. Jiu-jitsu. Was this when did this journey start, and what rank are you right now?
I am a brown belt currently. And then wow, the way I started was it was really funny actually. So I started this journey when I was actually 15 years old, right? And I was like this big kid. I was super obese, and all I wanted to do was stay home and play video games, And then one day my mom was not having it. She was like, you're home all day, you're just playing video games. It's time to get out of, get out of the house. So I was like, no, mom, I like to play video games. Leave me alone. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. And then 2 blocks away from my house, back then I was living in Brooklyn, right? 2 blocks away from my house is a martial arts school. Right. So she took me in there, and I was like, yo, this shit ain't gonna work. Like, I don't believe in this. So I did one class. I first did one class, right? And then I was like, you know what, mom, I'm just gonna do it. And then I'm just gonna tell you, I really don't want to, I don't want to do it anymore. Right. So it's $20. She paid for it. And after I did it, she actually signed me up for more classes. And I was like, why did you have to do that? She's like, son, just trust me. You're gonna do 5 more classes, finish it up, then come back and talk to me. So, then I went back for my second class, and then my third, and then my fourth, and then my fifth, and then I never missed the class. And then eventually I became, kind of who I am today. Like, I'm no longer obese and fat. You know what I mean? It has actually changed my life. The martial arts did change my life. I think without it, I would have been, not confident. I wouldn't be able to, speak to, I feel like without the martial arts, I wouldn't be able to speak to people. Like it's, like from back then I was so different, but with the martial arts, I gained confidence, my fitness has gotten better, just in general,
And how old are you now, Billy?
I'm 22.
So this is 7-year journey, brown belt. That is relatively quick in the process, right? Because the next step is black belt.
Yes.
So you're not fucking around. All right.
Yeah. So what happened was, after I got hooked up into it, I got my blue belt in 4 months, and that's faster than anyone has ever gotten it in the school. Usually blue belt takes around 1.5 years. I've gotten it in 4 months. So, that's how much I was in love with the training. I was so hooked up onto it, and I couldn't stop, like, I feel like once you're in the moment, like once you're in the zone, like that focus, like I see you go to the gym like every morning, and I know you do. You go to, I know back then you used to go to the gym in the morning and at night. And like, once you're in the zone, you're just so comfortable there. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not a chore anymore. You just want to keep going. You just want to go and go and go, and it's fun, right?
Yeah, dude. I think once you make something a habit, it just becomes like easier. Like it's easier for me to go to the gym than not go to the gym. And it sounds like that's how you are with jiu-jitsu. And it's so interesting I'm so happy your mom like forced you, because like that's something I talk about a lot on this podcast. It's like you have to be willing to be the fool for a little bit to become the wise king. That journey is why people quit. And that's usually, honestly, when I was your age, I quit everything because I was like, if I wasn't naturally good, I was like, I don't want to fuck around with this, because like that feeling of uncomfortability, it's just easier to not. And now we know through the self-help, personal development, all this nonsense, it's like you have to be able to sit with the uncomfortability to get through that. So like, what did you expect this martial art of jiu-jitsu to be when you first started? And what did you think it would mean to you? And what does it actually mean to you 7 years later?
Right. So to add on what you said, right? It's, a lot of it, the training has to do with being comfortable, being uncomfortable, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you kind of have to get used to it. And once you're in the zone, just being comfortable, being uncomfortable, you're actually in a better place. You're actually, you have the courage of, you're in the zone. And then you can keep going from that, you know what I mean? So you're actually never like, oh, I'm satisfied, I'm the best now, I can stop. You're actually just constantly growing, you know. So when I first started my training, I thought I was gonna like fight some big guys. I thought I was gonna get beat up. I thought this was gonna be like a long, this is gonna be hard, you know what I mean? But once I got into the training, especially my school, it's a very collaborative environment. It was really, everyone was really helpful to me. You know what I mean? Like, I never thought the martial arts could be so loving, and so like everyone was helping me grow. It
It was
wasn't
team
like,
oriented, that gym.
yeah, exactly. It's not like a competitive environment. You know what I mean? But once I every time I go to class, it's like everyone is so encouraging, and that definitely helped me stay in the martial arts. I feel like if I went to a competitive environment rather than a collaborative environment, it would have been very different, because people, having the courage to get on the mat is hard, even to walk through the door sometimes, because people think the martial arts is so like, I'm gonna get beat up. I can't fight. I can't fight anybody. I'm scared. I'm scared. That's why people are there. They're scared. They don't have any self-defense experience. They want to learn it, and they're afraid to get beat up. They're scared. They're gonna embarrass themselves. These insecurities kick in, man. So
That's why I stopped, Bill. And everybody knows I went to Henzo's a couple times. Like, yo, I just can't, couldn't get through. And I know that we know now that's not the best gym to go if you're trying to fucking be team oriented and hang out.
yeah.
But like, were you even close to a confrontational kid? Because you don't seem that way to me. Like, I'm saying pre-jiu-jitsu, like, were you like a fighter at all? Because I would say I'm a 0% fighter. Like, I'll talk my shit my way throughout anything, but I can't fight. I can't fight, Bill.
Yeah. So when I first started, I was, like, I was not confrontational. I was like, I think in middle school, I was like bullied, man. It's like, it wasn't like, it wasn't a good experience for me. You know what I mean? So when I first got into the martial arts, what I didn't realize was how much I was, what I lacked, like with the martial arts, I started to realize that, this thing was actually helping me to gain the confidence I need and to be confrontational. You know what I mean? When things are not right, I can actually go like, don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, that's not cool. It just brings another side of you. You know what I mean? Like, cause I am not a confrontational person back then, 5 years ago. Right now I am. Like, if you give me some shit that I don't like, or I see something that you did that is just, it's wrong, I will tell you. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't like that at all back in the day,
Yeah, and for everybody like listening, confrontational. I know what Billy means. I want to make sure, like, we're not talking about like we're trying to start shit. We're saying, like, when something in your reality or your world kind of feels off play, or something, like, for me, I'm like you, Billy. Like, somebody's on the train fucking around. Like, a black dude last week took his dick out on the train. Like, I gotta go say something, just because, like,
yeah.
I will not let malevolence and evil be in this world. There's enough shit going on. I don't want to see it. And it's not about, I'm not trying to fight. I literally can't fight. This dude was like, I'm going to fight you. I'm like, all right, I'm going to get beat up, but I have to speak up. And I think that's what Billy's trying to say, is like, you're just able, it gave you, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, it gave you a sense, because it sounds like before jiu-jitsu, you were kind of letting life live you, and now you kind of took the bulls by the horn. And I think it gave you a little bit more, at least confidence, to be like, oh, I can I can use the world to my benefit and kind of see what I want out of it in a way, and not just let it like run what I think it is,
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's exactly what it did for me. You know what I mean? Like, finding that passion, especially for, I think, guys and girls my age, you need to find something that you're passionate about. and something that's going to benefit you too. I feel like the martial arts, especially, that, it benefits you because, your mind, your body. Not only that, once you're passionate about it, it becomes a habit. You just keep going, and you don't want to stop. I feel like, guys my age, especially, if the gym is your passion, then great. You should keep going. I feel like that's what the martial arts did for me.
What did you think jiu-jitsu was going to be? And then what is it to you today? Like, how would Billy 15 years old describe jiu-jitsu? Like going into it, like, oh, this is martial arts. I'm going to fuck some people up. And then what would you describe it today as?
So 15 years ago, I thought, the jiu-jitsu was like, I'm probably going to beat somebody up once I learn this, choke some people out, break some limbs. But now I actually think the martial arts, it's a journey. It's a practice for me. You know what I mean? It's an art, that's why it's called the martial arts. It's not, I don't want to ever use what I learned in class ever in my life, but if I have to, I will, you know what I mean? Like, it's back in the day, I think 15 years old, I would be like, yo, this guy try to, I'm going to break this guy's limbs. I'm going to choke this guy out. Now it's kind of like, yeah, I'm not, it's not, I never will want to use this ever in my life. But jiu-jitsu, you see how fast, this martial arts it's fascinating because you're able to shut someone down without hurting them, right? It's different than like a punch, right? You punch somebody, you're going to do some damage. But jiu-jitsu, it kind of, it kind of helps you shut someone down without actually hurting them, right? You can pin someone down, going to knee on belly, going to cross-side without actually hurting somebody, so you make sure everyone goes home to their families. That's why I love jiu-jitsu so much, because, because I don't want to hurt anybody, you know what I mean? So it's
called the gentle art, right, Bill?
Yeah, it's called the gentle art. Yes.
Yeah, it's a non-striking base, so everybody knows. And I think what's unique about it for me was like it seems to provide solutions for like all different stages of confrontation. Like this all started. Everybody, I don't think I've told this story, Bill. Billy and I have a close friend. Is it Pat? Me and Pat. Pat knew me in my wild days. I'd still say I may still be in them. And the first time I was ever exposed to this, we would laugh at this kid. We were at the shore house, laugh at this fucking dorky small guy who's doing this martial art. Like, what the fuck is going on? And I talked myself into trouble as usual. I had to talk to the hottest girl in every club and do the whole thing. She had a boyfriend, and these four guys are surrounding me and Pat. I don't know what Pat said. I don't know what he did. I was like, I'm going to get beat up. Like, this is what's going to happen. Pat went up to these dudes, so calm, hand on this guy's shoulder. I don't know what this dude said, and just got us out of it. And I don't, Pat's he's like you. Like, we're not violent guys. He probably was just like, yeah, let this drunk asshole go. But that was my first exposure to jiu-jitsu. And I was like, this is before Rogan, before it became popular and all this stuff. I was like, this dude just did some fucking Jedi mind trick. Like, this is, even to have the confidence in that situation, Pat gave me a lot of confidence in that, because I was like, oh, I could just pretend to at least do that, because that was, have you ever seen yourself in that situation? I'm sure Pat told you about that story.
Yeah. So when Pat told me that story, I was so surprised. I was like, wow, this guy, for those people that don't know, Pat is like, he's not a big guy. He's like 5'5". I don't want to say, I don't want to say he's small, but he's like 5'5", and he's facing five guys and
Jersey Shore dudes with muscles,
right?
And me, who's just a drunken asshole, who's just like, Pat knows I can't fight. I was like, Pat, hey, I got myself in trouble. And Pat willingly stepped into the fire with me. He was like, cool. That's why I will always have Pat's back. Shout out to Pat.
But yeah, I feel my teacher likes to call all of us like walking giants, even though, we're not actually the giant, but what's going on is Pat, I think he, once he walked in there, he had the composure, right? To remain calm and remain his composure, to actually tell them like, hey, this is not, just leave him alone, whatever it is, right? But I'm pretty sure those four guys felt it from him, you know what I mean? Felt like this guy could do something, you know what I mean? Sometimes I feel like when you look at somebody, you kind of like have this you kind of feel them out, like, oh, I don't want to mess with this guy. You know what I mean? Like they give some sort of energy, right? I don't know if you ever,
I feel it, and I know I give it off, but I think it's just I'm a good fake. I could just pretend it's like I'm a crazy guy. Maybe that's why. But I do think on the opposite of this, there's also an effect of jiu-jitsu that seems to be humbling. And I was curious to know that from you, of like, because you're just basically every day. Like, how many times a week do you go? Like 4, 5, 3? But how many times?
Yeah, so back in the day when I was very young, I used to go every single day, Monday through Sunday, and then now I go 4 times a week. Yeah.
So 4 times a week, you're basically saying, I'm going to go throw myself into a fire just for an hour and a half. And just like, I don't know what's going to happen, because I'm sure you're rolling with black belts, you're rolling with your instructors. Like, they could fuck you up. And when you're in the presence of somebody who's just like, that's what happened to me, at least. Like the first or second time I was in there, I was like, oh, okay. I'm like a little baby walking around. Like, I literally think I'm the Great Scott. And I'm walking around this, like, all these people could just fuck you up. And it was such a humbling effect. Am I accurate in saying that?
Yes. It is a humbling experience when you first start. Like someone that could be very successful or very fit, actually. Like, you know, we get many of those guys walking to the door, like someone very strong, like 250 pounds, like big guys. And then they can't do anything against someone that's maybe 175 pounds, doesn't really go to the gym, but has a lot of technique, you know? So jiu-jitsu in general is very humbling. You know, when you train, when you actually get into the training, someone that's like very small, but they're very methodical and they're very technical in their approach, will actually submit the guy that's using force, trying to force everything through. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like jiu-jitsu, it creates such an environment for people that are, you know, I wouldn't say weak, right? People that are, you know, smaller than, you know, the average people, the person, someone that's not really going to the gym, not as strong, but, you know, jiu-jitsu kind of creates a space for these people that, you know, they're able to do what they can do to take the man down, you know, take whoever that's attacking them down, you know, to add on, my teacher, Brian Glick, I don't know if, you know, any of you guys know him, but he's 150 pounds, and he's a black belt, right? And I remember one of my classmates told me that when he went to class, he watched him you know, train with this guy that's 300 pounds, and he was just throwing him around like a feather, you know? So that's when I believed in the martial arts. That's when I believed that jiu-jitsu works. You know what I mean? Like, not a lot of martial arts where I look at it, I'm like, oh, this is going to work. But jiu-jitsu, I look at it, I'm like, this thing definitely going to work. I'm definitely going to choke this person out, you know?
Yeah. So, and it seems like it's like there's a philosophical piece to it. Like, even when you're doing, like, that comment you made about the guy who's kind of using so much energy, it sounds like you have to focus, like, you have to be calm. You have to probably using a little bit of breath work, but like conserving your energy in a way to wait for the right moment to, I guess, for your opponent to make a mistake, or, you know, whatever your style is. I don't want to pretend to know what I'm talking about. And then that ego, right? Like, what? Yeah, like, that's probably such an interesting time, because like that's when your ego's growing, right? That's like when the Great Scott was created during this time, at 18 to 22. It's like, that guy's a fucking asshole. I hate that dude. Like, how much like has your ego dissolved, and do you see that? Because I don't think there's any room for ego in jiu-jitsu, because you have to tap out. You have to. There's so much things, like, you really have to be humbled and have some humility.
Yeah, you went into a great point, man. Like, you have to not have any ego when you're on the mat. When you have ego, that's when you get hurt. Like, this is very common for people that just start in jiu-jitsu, because, you know, people like, you know, like someone that's big, muscular, with a lot of confidence, like, they come into the class as a white belt, but they don't know what jiu-jitsu is, right? So they come in like, oh, this guy, you know, he could be a purple belt, but, you know, he looks a lot smaller than me. I could probably just deadlift him, right? But it turns out these guys that are smaller than them are, you know, are manhandling them. You know what I mean? They're tossing them around, putting them in arm locks. And when you have the ego on you, when you get put in the arm lock and you don't tap, that's when you get hurt, you know? So you can't, you know, it's very hard to bring ego on the mat. That's when you're humble. Like, oh, am I gonna let my arm break, or am I gonna, am I gonna keep my ego? You know what I mean? So jiu-jitsu in general is very humbling. It humbles you. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't like, it doesn't make you, have a lot of what's the word I'm looking at? When guys are very confident, very arrogant, right?
Yeah.
You can't be arrogant in, in jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? But what's very common is once you train so much, what I tend to see on the mat is once you reach a level where you're kind of like dominating everyone, like let's say a higher belt, right? A purple belt, and you're a purple belt. Everyone in the class is like a blue belt, and you feel like you're the best guy. And that's when you have to check your ego again, right? You have to constantly check your ego, your pride in the class, because once you feel like you're the best, you're slowly gonna go down, and down. You know what I mean? Because that's why we have this collaborative environment where the guy that with the purple belt has to help the person with the blue belt and the white belt get to their next belt. If we don't help them get to their next belt, we won't be able to advance to our next belt. So that's why I feel like having that collaborative environment kind of shuts that down. Not a lot of people in our school have that ego, because when you have the ego, you tend to fail in most of your jiu-jitsu, so.
And I'm sure you were at that level where you're like, how does it work? You would roll with people of similar belts at all times, or are you, because I'm assuming you're trying to help the people underneath, like you're like a boss. That's what I would look at it. If like, I have to roll with Billy, and that's a little bit of a higher level. Like what happens if you're keep rolling and you're just demolishing everybody? Then you have to roll with Brian?
No. So yeah. So in the class, it's very, very rare I get to roll with Brian now, but in the class, it's you roll with people in every level. In the class, you have white belts, blue belts, purple belts. Sometimes you only get white belts. And for me, that's okay, because there's always something for me to learn from everybody. Even the white belts. I'm serious. Sometimes you just tend to forget the foundations. You know what I mean? Like you could train with a white belt and you see this guy just sweep you so gracefully, and you're like, wow, I probably forgot about that sweep, or there's always something you can learn. And my job as a senior is to help these guys. You know what I mean? Because once you help these guys are going to help the next set of guys. That keeps the school growing, and that keeps the school kind of, it holds the community together, rather than a competitive environment. You're looking at just I win, you lose. That's, it's not, there's no longevity in that. You know what I mean?
And there is a difference between like a school like yours, which we'll say is more team oriented, and then like a competitive school. Am I accurate in saying that? Like
yes.
Like what is, I wouldn't want to fuck the competitive stuff, but like, I'm assuming there are benefits to being on the competitive side. Like you're probably going to get better quicker. You're probably going to, I don't know, be put into weirder situations, but like, is there people competing in your place? And I'm sure you've trained at these competitive places. Like what is that like? Like that just sounds horrible to me, but.
Yeah. So with the competitive side, there's only certain people will stay. Because for our school, we believe the martial arts is for everybody. We see the martial arts as a vehicle for growth, right? In other schools, in a competitive environment, let's say you get a group of 20 students that start, only 5 or 4 will continue, because maybe they're stronger than the other 15, or maybe they have, they have more, I don't know, they have more time, whatever it is. When you're in a competitive environment, only the strongest will tend to stay, because who would want to get destroyed every day, right? No one wants to be going to class and constantly be dominated, right? It's a humiliating experience. But on the good side is, in a competitive environment, you tend to grow a little faster, because what's going on is you tell yourself, I can't stay in this position forever. Like your mind will force you to,
it's forcing change.
Yeah, it's forcing the change. So when I'm in the competitive side of the jiu-jitsu, it's much different because I'm forcing myself. I can't stay here because this guy could actually want to hurt me, right? In a collaborative environment, this guy, we're more responsible for our partner. Jiu-jitsu, it's dangerous. You're holding someone's ankle. You're trying to break someone's ankle. You're trying to break someone's arm. You're on somebody's neck. You could be responsible for those things, because these people have a family. In a competitive environment, it's very hard to see that because they think it's a fight. It's a fight. Like someone's got to win, someone's got to lose, so it kind of forces me to react very differently. But at the same time, having that, being in that collaborative environment, if it keeps me composed, right? Because when I go to a competitive environment to train, all these guys cannot stay composed. They cannot stay calm in these stressful situations because they let their adrenaline take over. So with my school, the benefit I see that is my teacher always taught me to stay composed because I feel like someone that's with a calm mind will always prevail someone with, rushing or stressed, so that's the kind of my theory on the different two environments.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking, I was reading and preparing to talk to you, and I was reading this article about how similar BJJ is to philosophy, and the key component with that is critical thinking, and it's somebody who you have to be able to ask the difficult questions, not only about the world and the process, but ask difficult questions about yourself. And I think, knowing those answers to the questions is a difficult thing to see your weakness, to see your weak spot. Not from a tactical standpoint, but from like a philosophical self standpoint. Like, well, maybe you are a little fucking mentally weak. Like when I started dabbling in the personal, everything, I feel like I'm innately a weak person. Honestly, I'm innately not a pretty person. I'm innately a fat kid, all this stuff. And it's like, I've earned this. And I think being that, you kind of appreciate it more. But when you get to learn about truth and reality of a situation, about yourself, it's like a beautiful thing. And I feel like it just expands your mind in a way where I'm assuming this has helped you across different facets of your life.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The martial arts helped me see myself, because sometimes I feel like it's very common for people, once they get good at something, they stop, right? Because it's harder for us to see what we're weak at when we're strong, right? Not like when I was 15, like in that moment, it's very easy for me to see what I needed to do to grow, right? Because I was weak, quote unquote weak, right? Mm-hmm. But now with so much martial arts experience, so much, I'm going to the gym, I'm fit. It's very hard for us now to see what we need to work on. We kind of, sometimes people kind of stop looking for opportunities to grow,
because you keep doing the same thing. Like even in the gym, exactly. I realized that this year I was like, oh, okay. I'm trying to get bigger, but you keep doing the same routine, and what's forcing that growth? Because I think in the competitive environment, it sounds like you can get that forced change more, but I don't want to be fucking forced to change. I want to be like, okay, I want to get, whatever. Roll. So what if you said, you walked into Brian, like, Brian, I really want to start getting better quickly. Could you even do that? Is that even, you would just go to more classes, I guess? I guess that's up to you then.
Yeah. So there's many times where I walked up to him and said, hey, I want to get better. And the thing he always tells me is to find something to work on for a while. And once you're completely good at it, you go to the next thing. And it's a cycle.
One thing at a time.
Yeah, one thing at a time. Exactly. So we're taking incremental steps instead of these giant leaps. And it's very funny. I was looking at how a bamboo grows, right? So for the first 5 years, the bamboo only grows by around 5 centimeters. And after 5 years, the bamboo starts growing 30 centimeters, 40 centimeters a year, so it's very important we build our foundation first. So that's kind of the lesson he told me. And it's always good to revisit these basics, because sometimes we forget.
No, and I think that's a good point, because probably I would assume if I started jiu-jitsu, I was like, Billy, I'm gonna go 6 months. I'm going to get from level 0 to level 20 in those 6 months. But then after that, there's going to be these baby steps. And then once you feel comfortable, and then there's like another shoot. It's like a stock market. Like that's the way, because I always love doing 6 months of anything because I'm able to get, pretty good, pretty quick at things. And then things start to get boring. But with jiu-jitsu, it sounds like you don't get bored because it's like there's always something to work on. And even though how long is it? It's been around for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. It's still a developing art form when you have geniuses like, who's the one from
Danaher,
Danaher, and you have Gordon Ryan's just taking it to another level with the leg locks and all this stuff. Like, what do you see? Like, what do you think is the force of change in the jiu-jitsu world in the last couple of years? Is it exposure? Is it the amount of minds thinking about this now? Is it just different types of people getting into it? What do you think?
Well, I think in my opinion, I think what Danaher was able to do was he's able to break the different techniques into systems. And back in the day, for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, it was not really like a clear system, right? So Danaher actually made it to like science, he actually made like a graph. Like if you go this, you have 3 options here, 1, 2, 3. Like he breaks it down for you in a very simple approach so you can see it. That's why I feel like Gordon Ryan, all these guys they're getting better very quick because they have a system, right? And back in the day, it was only like mount position. You can go for an arm lock, you go for your collar choke, and the art still to this day, it's still evolving. You see, back 3 years ago, Danaher was teaching mostly leg locks, and that changed the game. That changed jiu-jitsu. When Gordon Ryan first started that inside heel hook thing, I'm not sure if you know. I'm pretty sure
I'm very familiar, and I just love watching people break each other's legs, and it's also why I'm terrified of jiu-jitsu. I would say I'm pretty on top of the leg lock game, but like what's been going on lately, I'm not familiar. Because whatever's like UFC, I feel like there's been less jiu-jitsu exposure. Like it really, when I started watching UFC 2015, 2020, it was like everybody's talking about jiu-jitsu, and now it's like, I don't. You need it. A couple champs have it, but I feel like the base has changed from jiu-jitsu heavy to like grappling heavy.
Right. So when Danaher created the inside heel hook, the inside senkaku, when he created that system, it was revolutionary. Like everyone started doing it. Everyone started to evolve their game. And from the inside senkaku came the backside 50-50. And then it came all this other stuff. Like jiu-jitsu just evolved, like from that simple leg lock that they started doing. It just evolved. Like,
but when you say that, you're saying like, okay, we're going leg lock. Like nobody was doing that, or was it because wasn't it like leg locks were kind of shunned upon by the Gracies? And it's like, why would you? I think somebody told Danaher, like, why would you neglect half the body? That's the first time I would think. Like, I want to fuck your leg up. That's all I say to people is I'm going to break your leg. That's all I want to do. It sounds amazing.
Yeah. So back in the day, I feel like their only leg locks was shown apart because the heel hook, the ankle lock, not a lot of people were doing it. And then one day when Danaher was training, right, and then Dean Lister told him, why would you ignore 50% of the body? I feel like that's what sparked all these ideas, because your legs is 50% of your body, and there's so many things you can attack. You can attack the knee, the ankle, the heel, the toes. Why exactly? Why would you ignore 50% of the body?
So it was really like if we're playing, is there a video game guy like me? Like if we're playing this, like it was like the leg lock, the legs only got to a certain extent, and then he went in there and said, well, what else could we do? What if? And then all these branches, like the skills of adding to your player and fucking in these games exploded to like all these different steps that just kept continuously creating this new leg lock system.
Right. So so he just constantly, I guess, again, he's constantly asked himself questions. He looked for improvements through his students. I'm pretty sure,
I know he's a psychopath. People who don't know what we're talking about, John Danaher, check out, he was on Rogan. He's just, he was a philosophy teacher at Columbia. I've heard that like this, no family, this is what he does. Like one of the few people who are just like, this is it. This is jiu-jitsu is like, I don't know if anybody is more willing to learn and kind of explore the world of jiu-jitsu than Danaher. I'm sure there's a couple people, but like it sounds like he's putting in hours a day.
Yeah, I've props to the guy, man. Like this is like jiu-jitsu is his life. You know, it's like when someone can do something they're so passionate about and it's their entire life, like there's no way you can't be good at it. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty sure he dedicates all his time to his students and to jiu-jitsu. And that has helped people in the jiu-jitsu community so much because of him, the jiu-jitsu is able to evolve, you know, and you see all these other martial arts, you know, stagnant. It's just, you know, jab, cross, punching, kicking, you know, but jiu-jitsu, there's moves. You could go on and on with these scrambles, with all these techniques, you know. And
he's training Gordon when he's doing MMA. Gordon was saying like he is just as well versed in kickboxing and wrestling, and I'm sure just knowing all these bases so advanced just helped explore the varieties of the body like you can do, because it's just really, really just unbelievable stuff that you're taking like a thing that's been around for so long and then you just see it explode.
Right. So you know, you can't always, you can't do what you're comfortable with, right? You know, what he could have done was just the jiu-jitsu, but he did everything else too. You know, if you talk to him on any martial arts, he'd probably know it. You know, he will connect jiu-jitsu to sambo. He will connect all these, you know, jiu-jitsu to wrestling or kickboxing. He would say this stance is your typical, you know, fighting stance. You know, like he will connect all these martial arts together. Like this ties into another concept. You can't just get good at one thing. You can't just be comfortable with what you're doing. You can't do something because you're afraid of it. You can't do something because you don't like it. You have to do it. You know, you have to do the work to get better, you know?
Yeah, man. And you see that with, I just think there's something to, I would say when I was your age or in my 20s, I was like, I just want to get ridiculously good at one thing. And I want to master it. I'm not saying, I think you see this with men of power and money in the Western culture. Just want to focus on money. And I wanted some money when I just wanted to do this or do that. And you see it. And it's like, I started trying, instead of doing like 100% of one thing, I want to be like 75, 80% of 5 or 6 different things. And I think for me, life has become more vibrant. Life has become, I don't know, it's just more color to it. And it's like, I feel like the podcast does. It's like, I'm going to talk to you. I'm talking to a neuroscientist tomorrow about fucking, I don't even know what we're talking about. Shout out to Dr. John Leaf from Yale. But it's like, fuck it. And the same way, I never even realized I was throwing myself in the fire. I would have these guys come on the show and I would just be like, oh, this is a Yale professor, double majored. I'm just going to talk to him about molecules of the brain and we're going to figure it out. I'm like, bitch, I'm rolling in my own way. And I think just that gives you a confidence. Like now I feel like I literally could speak to anybody, Bill. Like, it's just like, I don't give a shit who you are. I'm a black belt in bullshitting and it's awesome.
I love it, man. I love it.
But no, Bill, one more question. And we're gonna keep going. I want you to tell me about this. Like, because I always talk about, and you mentioned it to me on Instagram, like fear. Fear is what cripples people from hitting their dreams. It is the deterrent of most people's kind of, you know, living. What does fear look like to you now? And what has jiu-jitsu done so much with because we all have fear. And I know you have fear. I know we all have it. Your relationship to fear is what I'm talking about.
That's a good question. My relationship to fear is, you know, back in the day, I feel like fear has stopped me from doing many things. But with the training, I'm taught to overcome that. You know, you can't let fear stop you from doing what you want to do or being loving. You know, I actually have a very, very powerful story I'm going to tell you after this. Like, this is, you know, it's very similar to the concept, you know, we've been talking about, you know, being comfortable, you know, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, you know. So, you know, we become slowly less afraid, you know, like of all these things, you know. A good metaphor here is like, once we've gotten the medicine for what ails us, we move beyond the cure, so we don't have to stay medicated all the time, right? We kind of recognize our need to get rid of the thing that we rely on, so it doesn't become another crutch, right? So we kind of move past it, you know. So yeah, and which I'm going to tell you the story, right? So after class, after class, my teacher, Gene Dunn, he would always offer us something very powerful. Like when I heard that story, I was like, wow, this is beautiful, right? So he said, he was going through his day. He there's this dog, he dog sits usually, for his neighbor, I guess. And he was walking the dog, and then there's a new stop sign on the block, right? He's walking the dog, and then this guy blew right past the stop sign. And then my teacher went, dickhead, you know? And the guy kind of stopped the car, and then my teacher went around him and said, why did you have to call me a name? And then my teacher kind of, you know, my teacher is 6'5", 250 pounds. He's a big guy. Like I wouldn't be able to, why'd you do that to me? You know, like, yeah. So he's like, why did you have to call me that? You know? And then my teacher thought to himself, he's like, you're right. You're right. Why did I have to call him that? You know? And I think what took over was fear. The fear of the dog getting injured, or the fear of him getting hit, stopped him from being so loving. You know what I mean? So, and then the guy was like, I'm late for my appointment, blah, 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 but he didn't apologize, which I thought it wasn't cool at all. So he drove off, and my teacher told the story to his mentor. And his mentor said, what he should have done is he should have apologized to you, right? And what his mentor told him was, we're bound to repeat it until we defeat it, right? I feel like that was a very powerful message. Like, wow, where else in the other areas in my life where I haven't defeated, you know what I mean? So I felt like that was super powerful. Like, we're bound to repeat it until we defeat it, right? So the message, the lesson I took from the message was, sometimes we let fear get in the way of us being kind, being loving. You know what I mean? And then the second message was, where else in my life am I repeating certain things that I haven't defeated, quote unquote, you know what I mean? And I think fear has a huge factor in all these things we do in our life,
Yeah, man. No, I love that story. I think that the fear and the ego are two things, particularly with men, that just get in the way. And like, usually I've been learning this year, like, nobody's even thinking about you. Like, it's all like, I tend to make stuff about me. Like, this one's not talking to me here, or we're not going out because of this. And this, it's like, no, people got their own shit going on. It's like, rarely is it about you? The world does not revolve around you, Scott, or whoever's, because it's, like, and I think when you learn the way of being this flow that you're talking about with jiu-jitsu, like, I'll tell you what happened. I was at Crunch. It's my gym I go to, and I pulled out the wrong way. I was definitely wrong. This dude lost it. He was losing it on me, Billy. And I'm laughing because I'm like, I'm not a tough guy. I'm like, usually I would do the whole tough guy thing. And I'm laughing. I'm like, are you good, bro? He's like, get out of the car. And I'm like, all right, let's get out of the car. At this point, I'm not fighting nobody. If anybody sees me, please beat me up. I deserve it, probably, whatever. But I'm like, at this point, Bill, I'm like, I probably deserve a beating at this point anyway. Let's just see if I can maybe see what's going on with this guy. So I genuinely ask him, he's hyped, right? And at this point, I can either get hyped with him, and that probably would have started the issue. I just go, dude, I know I'm wrong. I admit it. I'm sorry, but do you think that was a normal reaction you just had? I'm like, look, we're outside here. Like, you want to fight me? And this dude, bro, started like breaking down. He just went through a divorce. His wife took everything. And that hit home with me. And now he's listened to the podcast. Shout out to Sam if you're listening to this. It is the funniest shit I've ever seen. It's just such a funny thing of like how as men we tend to like get the ego so hyped up. And it's like, bro, what? Like, you ain't shit. I'm saying that to myself. Like, I ain't like, nobody is shit, and none of it is worth it for anything to like, and always answer. I know it's a little bit gay, a little bit of Beatles, but like to answer with a way of love. And I would say when I think you see me mostly at my good times. I'm always answering with love, but this year's been a little tough for me. It's been hard. I've been answering more with anger. And I'm like, you will get nothing you want by answering anger with anger. Because what you're doing is what you see, what you're feeling is what you see through the world. That's it's your perception, it's your reality. So by answering with anger, all I've been seeing is all more anger. And it's like, shit, what the fuck's going on? So, last week I said, I got to reset. I got to get back to like peace and tranquility. And what happens? Everybody's fucking peaceful and tranquil. It's like, I think that's a key piece. We talk about that all the time here. It's just like understanding the power that your thoughts and how much power you actually have on creating your reality. Not in that you're going to manifest $1 million or any of that nonsense, but just be able to, like, your thoughts really matter, and how you talk to yourself is usually how you see other people. And I'm a very harsh person to myself, so I tend to be harsh on the world. So if anybody's listening to this, please just remember taking that softer approach. I think, usually we are our worst enemy,
Right. Yeah. So I feel like I completely agree with you, man. Like, men in general, like, sometimes for myself, I have to check myself. Like, sometimes I really let my ego and my pride get in the way. Like I ain't shit. But sometimes I do like to say I'm the shit.
Well, bro, that's funny, because I think men say people say, I don't want to keep doing men, like, you have to be confident in a way, which is saying I am the shit. But at the same point, you're not the shit. It's like both. And for me, like today, I felt I am the shit when I'm crushing the gym and I'm talking to the girl, but I've also felt like I'm not the shit. So it's like, I think you're balancing this, it's not an act. It's just like, it's just how you feel. Like, sometimes as humans, we talk out of both sides of our mouth. Like, it's just, and that's okay. Like, this is nature. Like, you got to be the yin and the yang. Black implies white, white implies black. Right. Just like accept it, and don't be, because like, I hate that, like, I'm like this two-sided Scott, right? Right now, Billy's getting causing the effect Scott. Tonight we'll go out. He'll get fucking wild Scott. Yeah. So Scott talk. Yeah, it's a retard. But it's everything. And that is the best part of life for me, because I used to have so much, like, who am I? That's what I used to ask. It's like, you're everything. I think people can get all tied up. Like, I'm putting yourself in a box. You're not in a box. That's you putting yourself in the box. You could be anything and everything at the same time. As a matter of fact, we are all and nothing at the same time. And I think that's some powerful shit. So
yeah, I feel like the energy you want is who you are, you know what I mean? So it's very important. I think one of our, one of my training partners, his name is Herman Pesci, Mr. Pesci. When I was 16, he told me something very important, and I still remember to this day. He's told me that there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. And then, the confidence is, I can do this very well. But the arrogance is, I can do this better than you. So I feel like that was such an easy way for me to understand where I'm at.
Arrogance, this is the second you're bringing in other people. That confidence is just, I'm good with myself. And
I'm good with myself. So sometimes I feel like it's okay to say, I am the shit. I am. But what's not okay is for us to go, I am better than you. That's when it's off the line, man. It's like, you know what I mean? And then to connect to what you were saying before, I feel like, what I've been working on is planting a good seed in everything I do and in people. Because when you plant a good seed, it will always come back. You always get good fruit, good plant, whatever it is. It'll always come back to you. It's kind of like the concept of karma, right?
That is karma, dude. That is, I had on Thursday, I had, he's the president of a Tibetan Buddhist not-for-profit. And this is exactly the words he uses, the plants, the seeds that you plant, they will always come to fruition. And usually you don't realize we all have junk in our minds from our parents, from this or that, but you could change that by planting those seeds of love. And that is karma, because what you're planting is what your thoughts are, and that's what you're seeing.
Yeah. So, and I didn't realize like what I've been doing. I haven't been planting good seed. Like lately, I've just realized, like probably 3 months ago, like, wow, what have I been doing? Like what I realize is I have to plant these, plant the seed of love, to plant these good seeds, because if I want something good, if I want good fruit to come out, I need to build the foundation. I need to do these good things. You know what I mean? So I can't start, because when you don't plant a good seed, people will have this impression of you, right? Like, let's say you start off with somebody very, very, it's not a good first impression. that seed is already bad, so people will remember you like that. You know what I mean? So, and that's with everything you do. You want to be genuine. You want to be genuinely nice and good to people. You can't just do good because that's the right thing to do. You have to be genuine when you do these things. You know what I mean? That's what I realized, because when you do good will always come back,
Exactly. Too. Awesome. Yo, Bill, thank you so much for joining me, man. This was a good convo, brother. Thank you.
Yo, listen, man, I'm so happy that I'm here today, that I'm the guest. I'm glad that I'm able to do this. I'm so surprised.
Bro, you crushed it. Yeah, Billy was a little nervous before, and that's we got you, man. Been doing this fucking years now. I got you, man.
You know why I was able to do it? Because you were the host. If it was anybody else, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Dude, I always got you. And everybody, I'll put Billy's I'll put his Instagram in if you want to ask any questions about him or whatever. And then it's Brooklyn Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. That's where I'm gonna put. Yeah, I'll put that in the notes below too. I know there's a couple of Brooklyn people listening. Any questions? Reach out to Billy. Reach out to me. But that's it, people. Watching on YouTube, subscribe, like, whatever, thumbs up. If you're listening, my following, thank you guys so much for all the support, all this stuff. Billy, come on again. We'll talk more jiu-jitsu. And that's it. As always, stay safe, stay positive, stay blessed. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.